Hi everyone, this is Julianne Victoria of Through the Peacock's Eyes. Welcome back to my channel. So another video for YouTube today. I've been talking all day, making videos mostly for clients, but if you've been on YouTube today, you'll see my videos popping up. So here I am for another one. I want to talk about death and endings in tarot. I just recorded, or earlier today I recorded a vlog discussion video about talking about death and NDE, so near death experiences, Alzheimer's, and so on. I'll link that on screen if you want to check it out. But this will go in my tarot decks and other stuff playlist because it's tarot specific. And I get this question a lot. People asking, do you predict death in tarot? How do you see death in tarot? I think I see it occasionally pop up in like some tarot Facebook group. So let's talk about death a little bit more today. So first of all, from an ethical standpoint, I do not predict people's deaths with tarot or with astrology. And if you check out my vlog on Let's Talk About Death a little bit, I do feel like it's not totally set in stone. We have various exit points. And even if you think death is appearing in a tarot reading, you have to ask yourself, should you say that? Because you could be wrong. We're all human. We can make mistakes. We can see, say, the death card and the tower card and be like, oh, it's the end. But does that benefit the client in any way? Likely not. So, you have to make your own decisions, your own judgments. But ethically, I do not predict people's deaths. So just putting that out there. However, I have experience where death or the experience of facing death, whether it's the client's or another person's, usually it's someone else related to the client, that can come up quite a bit. So I have some tarot cards here to kind of take a look, and I want to call it, looking at death and endings. So the death of a relationship, a death of a career, a death of a job, a death of a lifestyle. And those can be both positive or negative, depending on the person's experience and how they choose to handle those endings or those deaths within one's life. So let's take a look. So obviously we have the death card. Oh, and the two decks I'll be showing here. So my voice might crack because I have been talking a lot today. The Ember and Aura Tarot, which I just did an unboxing with, so I thought I'd use it for this. And the Morgan Greer Tarot, which is a very, very standard Rider-Waite-Smith. Okay, so of course we have the death card. And you'll always hear, oh, death is about transformation. It's not about physical death, which is really true. But with a transformation, so something is transforming, changing shape, changing the experience. When there is change, often something ends for something new to begin. So even though the death card most likely does not indicate actual physical death of a person, the transformation energy does indicate there will be a death or ending to make way for the new. Often the death card signals the rebirth of something or the birthing of something. So transformation. Okay. Now the next death card I have here is the Ten of Swords. So all tens are endings. So an aside, 9 is a number of completion. It's the end of the cycle. The 10, because the number 10, 1 plus 0 breaks down to 1, but it's not quite the new beginning. It's not exactly the 1, it's the 10. To me, it's like the space in between the completion of something or the ending of something, the death of something, and the actual new thing, whether it's a brand new beginning. I always feel like new beginning is a bit redundant, but it's commonly said, new beginning, or rebirth of something, if that's the process that's to take place. It's that space in between, that space of possibly grief for what is going away, that space to grieve, because that's an important process. Um, the space to clear the space from the old, clean out the energy, to make the space for the new to come in. So it can be the basking in the fullness of the cleansing space, the opening and welcoming, preparing to receive space. That's the number 10. So it's like beyond completion, but not quite, almost sort of the new. So we have the 10 of Swords. Now, because this is swords, you could see this and be like, oh, gruesome, great, someone's going to stab me in the back. It's not usually physically literal like that. It is very much about thoughts, swords, the air suit, thoughts, ideas, beliefs, expectations, views, opinions. I sometimes call this card the suicide card, not because anyone's going to kill themselves, but because we need to bring an ending to a thought, to a belief pattern. Now, that may make us feel like we're grieving a part of ourselves. And that energy actually came up very strongly in this week's weekly, so I'll link that on screen towards the end too. But this is very much about releasing, letting go those ideas that aren't working, those plans that we're hanging on to that, we know it's not going to happen, or the belief system that we once believed and lived by, but we realize we don't anymore. So that is the second very much death and ending card. Now the next card, the Tower, the dreaded Tower card. Now the Tower, it is very physical. It is physical things being torn down. And it can indicate physical death. But again, if you're doing readings for other people, you have to look at your own ethics. But it does definitely indicate a big change in someone's physical life. Something needs to be torn down. The lifestyle. It could be something as simple as how they make their breakfast. Tear down that routine, that established pattern. It can occasionally also be, like the swords, the mind. As they tear down their beliefs, belief systems, expectations, living by other people's ideas. They realize that, you may realize you need to actually tear down and restructure your entire life, your career path. This could be a relationship falling apart, but it's unstable to begin with. So that is another strong death and ending card. But what I love about the Tower, grab 2 cards there, is that once that comes down, like our view clears. We see beyond it when we couldn't before. Now it's a lot of work when our lives are in a tower position, because then we need to clean up the rubble. But that helps to clear that space. And often that cleaning up the rubble is a really important time of personal growth. Okay. The next death card, Judgment. Now this is death and rebirth, but rebirth does mean something has or is in the process of ending. Okay. Now the next card that I have here, a card that represents death or endings in tarot. This is more my experience and my interpretation. It's not something you'll standardly see or, in a book or in a course. The Lover's card. Now, this has changed now that, there's many decks and different artist interpretations, but most of the time, the Lover's card comes up for me because the Lovers is about a choice. In older decks, this was called choice, or sometimes it was twins were shown, not necessarily two lovers. But it's about making a major choice, a life-changing decision. And often, probably always, when we make life-changing decisions, we're breaking away from one thing so that we can go on a new path. So to me, the Lovers is very much a breakup card, breaking up a relationship, breaking up from a job, breaking up from a habit. This can be an ending card too, a death and ending card. Yeah, those big decisions that change our lives. Maybe not right then, but down the road. They steer us in a new direction, which implies the death, the ending of something else. Now, a few other cards that can indicate something is ending or the death of something is happening. We have the Four of Swords, a card of rest and peace. I probably wouldn't feel that so much with this deck, but with this one, a standard Rider-Waite-Smith, it's actually a sarcophagus of a soldier. Though a traditional meaning of this card is rest, retreat, taking a break, it can also indicate time to take a break and be done with something as well. Then, of course, we have the Hanged Man. Now, it does mean, looking at things from different perspectives, relaxing, literally just hang out, turn yourself upside down and see what you see. But it can also be sort of literally, suspend that idea, suspend that plan, suspend that relationship. It could be temporary, put it on hold, but it could be, it's time to hang that up. And then, of course, the Three of Swords. So this is a lot of pain, grief, and sorrow. I don't often feel this as something is ending, but I do have a friend I've known many, many years, who's also a tarot reader for many, many years. This card for her is her death card. And it has come up for her with a client who then not long after passed away. And no, she didn't say, oh, you're going to die during the reading. It's just, oh, there's a big challenge. There's something difficult coming up for you. Okay. And then, I pulled out some of the 10s because, again, 10s are, so 9s are completion and 10 is like more beyond that, the transition between the ending and the new beginning. So any 10s can indicate death and endings. This, of course, is, a very happy one. But depending on the spread and how the cards interact and play, they can play out, positive or negative. This could be the end of a family situation. Doesn't necessarily mean someone passes away, but it could be, part of your family's moving away. And so you celebrate that, enjoy your time together, but there's a completion coming. Of course, there's the Wheel of Fortune, another 10. Shifting of cycles. Shifting of karma. 10 of coins or 10 of pentacles. The World is a card of endings and completion, often quite positive. But again, depending on the reading, the other cards that come up, the client's question, it could be like, it's time to be done with that and move on to other things. And then I also brought the Sun card here, because the Sun represents your soul. And this is a card of joy, but often moving towards our joy means moving away from things that are holding us back, that are limiting us. And so an ending must come to something for us to move more towards our joy or more towards our soul's calling. And then, of course, the Fool. The Fool is that 0. It is that space between 10 and 1. Anything can happen, but there's nothing. The Fool is more the space where things have ended, and now what? This could be the space of grief. Grieving a relationship, even if it's one you wanted to end, grieving an idea of what you wanted to do, grieving a friend moving away, though you're still connected. This is the empty space between the ending and the new beginning. Okay, so that's just a little look at death and endings in tarot. Yeah. Always ask yourself if it comes up in a reading, so the ethical side of it, and you really feel like, these three cards come up and like in physical positions in a reading, and you're like, oh my gosh, something bad's gonna happen. Ask yourself how you want to phrase it, and if it's necessary to scare your client. It's usually not. And you could just put it out there. I don't predict death. That's not what I do. Or if someone asks, just say, I don't predict death. But the reality is that there are deaths and endings in our everyday life, in our lives. And so that cycle needs to be acknowledged and not sugar-coated either. So just a little bit about death and endings in tarot, because I said I was going to do the video soon. So here it is. But honestly, like, depending on the spread, it could just be a whole bunch of minor cards. And I had this experience once, actually. I did a reading for a friend. I might have mentioned this in a comment. I don't think I mentioned it in a video. But I did a reading for a friend. She had moved away and she was back visiting. And I did a reading for her. And it was all very low number minor arcana cards. And, I just remember saying, things are they're just what they are. It's status quo. Nothing's happening. And she's like, yeah, okay. She kind of knew. She agreed with that. But I couldn't see anything for her. And unfortunately, she ended up passing away like a few months later. So it can come up in all sorts of ways, in unexpected ways. But do ask yourself the ethical question. But also, it could mean something else. You could be wrong. It could be, this is an ending of, that job. You might get fired, you might quit, and it looks like new work is on the way. So always ask yourself the ethical question and realize you could be wrong as well. Okay, I hope that's making sense. But I just want to kind of look at cards that represent death and endings in tarot. And, meanings can come through. Things can come through in unexpected ways, like the sun. Not your typical, there's an ending, but often to move towards our joy, we have to move away and leave behind and end something that's limiting it. All right, everyone. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching, liking, sharing, and subscribing. And I'll see you back here soon.